Hey all, welcome back. Today we are celebrating two book birthdays that could not be more different. One of them I'm genuinely excited to talk about with you. The other one I would honestly rather never speak of again. Let's start with the good news. Happy book birthday to Kimmie K and H.A. Pruitt, two names you've probably heard on this channel before. They have been good author friends of mine for a while now, and they just celebrated the release of Tiny Sam and the Towering Mountain, their new children's book that they co-authored together. Kimmie asked me to do a little review of this book because it just released a couple weeks ago, so it's still very new. So I read it over the weekend, and guys, it really is so cute. It's about this little panda named Sammy who is smaller than all of the other animals in his village, and because of that, he's been told time and again that he won't be able to do what they can do, that his size is a limitation. So he takes it upon himself to climb Towering Mountain to prove to everyone else, but also to learn for himself, that God made him exactly the way he's supposed to be, and that his size is not a limitation, it's actually a really unique gift. So really great messaging. It is illustrated in color, which was really exciting to discover, Exhibit A. And it's also largely based on the adversity that Kimmie K has had to overcome in being a writer dealing with a visual impairment, and she talks about that in the back of the book. Both authors share a little bit about the background to the story, what inspired them to write it. So if you want like that extra layer of depth, definitely read all the way to the end. The plot itself reminded me a little bit of like a junior Pilgrim's Progress. You have this character going on a journey, and he runs into all these other characters who are on their own journeys, and they influence each other in different ways. And that for me was like the most poignant part of this whole story. It was the part I felt that kids really need to understand and learn, that like it's not just about you and what God is doing for you, how he's coming through in your life, but it's also about how God is using you to influence other people. So that's sort of what Sammy represented in the story, and I thought that was cool to see the way that he kind of helped the other characters overcome their own limitations to climb the mountain too. The only thing I will say that was a little bit of a question mark for me was that when I looked it up on Amazon, it was listed as like an age 8 to 12 range book. I think, based on what I know of my nieces and nephew and what I was reading at age 8 to 12, I think that's probably a little bit old for this book. To me, it read sort of like a Max Lucado, like those Punchinello books that were so good. There are a lot of words, like it's a denser story, but the writing is kept like straightforward enough that it feels geared more towards kids who maybe aren't reading on their own yet or have just started reading on their own. That's just sort of my 2 cents on that, like just for the sake of making sure that you pick the perfect niece or nephew or grandchild or son or daughter to buy this book for. I would say think maybe like age 5 to 7 instead of 8 to 12, but you know your kids better than I do, so take that with a grain of salt. So that's that. Happy book birthday to Tiny Sam and the Towering Mountain, and to Kimmie K and H.A. Pruitt, of course. Okay, so that was the fun book birthday. Now it's time to talk about the other one. Guys, this is kind of weird for me to say because honestly it feels like it's been centuries, but 5 years ago this month, little teenage Niki was planning and attending the book launch for her self-published, I want to say catastrophe, but I feel like I should be gracious to myself and say book. I've mostly repressed the memory at this point. I try not to think about the launch or anything around that time. I don't talk about it. And it's not because the launch went badly, because it was actually really nice. Like lots of people came, there was a ton of support. My family and friends were just incredible. The issue was mostly that I realized, probably not 2 months after the launch, that I regretted publishing the book. It was nowhere near ready for publishing. I could already see the problems with it, and I just realized that I had done this huge thing, and now there was no undo button I could press to make it disappear. So, you may ask, why are you bringing it up, Niki? We didn't even know about this. Why not just let sleeping dogs lie? Good question. But I actually do have a few different reasons for bringing it up. Reason number one, the fact that it's been 5 years and realizing that 5 years have gone by just made me think like, okay, this is a bit of a milestone and maybe it's time to take another look at that whole experience. Reason number two is that some very wise, lovely writer friends in my life have encouraged me that maybe it's time to do just that. They've also sort of suggested that maybe the way I see it is neither the most healthy nor the most accurate. And reason number three, the whole point of this channel is to encourage other writers on their journeys. And I feel like it's time for me to stop living in shame about the decisions I made as a young writer and the mistakes I made as a young writer, because the best way to be an encouragement to you guys is probably just to own that and to acknowledge that it's part of my story. I screwed up, guys. There is a book out there with my name on it that admittedly is not the worst book that has ever been self-published. I know that, but it's also nowhere near up to my current standard. I could give you a laundry list of problems with it, and I've since been working on that story. I have so many more plans for it. I'd love to republish it one day, and so that old book is just, it's like an early draft that's out there, and I wish it wasn't, but you know what? I'm still alive. 5 years later, I have a contract with an incredible publisher. I am working as a Padawan under writer Jedi Jill Williamson. Like, the Blood of Kings Legends collection is set to come out next year, and I have a book in that collection. It's just wild to think about, because 5 years ago, little Niki felt that her writing journey began and ended with that mistake that she made. And it's crazy and encouraging and just mind-blowing for me to think that the Lord made a way forward for me. That wasn't the end of my story, and I want to encourage all of you who maybe feel like you're in the same place that it doesn't need to be the end. And don't catastrophize. I've been catastrophizing for 5 years, and that ends now. And that is why we are celebrating the birthday of the book that heretofore has been the book that shall not be named. We're naming it. It's called The Heir of Ariad. It exists. I can't say I recommend it per se, but I can say that I am a better writer because of it. There are so many things that I could say about that whole chapter of my life. It was a little bleak for a lot of reasons, not all of them book related. And honestly, guys, like, I want to move the channel in that direction. I want to be open and honest about the mistakes I made as a young writer. I want to share the shame and the fear that I sometimes still feel because of those mistakes, because I feel like that is the best way that I can serve you. So let this video be my teaser for that. With God's help and with encouragement from the wise, amazing writers in my life, I would like this channel to get a little more real, starting with these oh so difficult words. Happy birthday to the Heir of Ariad, an important part of my testimony as a writer and as a person. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, do not forget to spend some time in the clouds today.